Hello, beautiful bookish people. My name is Hannah, and today I let my favorite author choose my TBR. Yep, that's me. So if you don't know, hi, my name is Hannah, and I am in love with a character named Richard Gamble Cansey III. And he's from the Raven Boys. And who wrote the Raven Boys? Thank you for asking, Maggie Stiefvater. And so on Maggie Stiefvater's Goodreads, she actually has a section that says recommended. So what I did is I just basically went through them and picked books that either interest me or I already knew. And so that is the video we are talking about today, is just reading the books that Maggie Stiefvater recommended on her Goodreads. Without further ado, I think we should just jump into it, talk about these books, right? I am obviously excited because the first book that I read for this experiment was Places No One Knows. So, if you don't know, last year Places No One Knows was my favorite book, and I think it is extremely underrated. I don't hear anyone talking about it. It's by the incredible author Brenda Jovanoff. Fun fact. Brenda Jovanoff and Maggie Stiefvater are friends. Yay! And Maggie Stiefvater based the character of Persephone off of Brenda Jovanoff. And you know what? After reading Brenda Jovanoff's work, I am not even in the slightest surprised, because I'm like, just give me an ounce of your talent and I'll be happy. So Places No One Knows basically follows this girl named Waverly, either her junior or senior year, and her best friend has kind of planned out her entire year for her. She's kind of always been known as the vice president to this very popular high school girl, until one night she lights a candle and walks into the dreams of a very troubled young man named Marshall, and they have beautiful conversations about life. They're letting down their walls. Waverly is getting over the fact that she always wears a mask, and Marshall is kind of getting over his daddy issues and knowing the difference between emotional intelligence and actual intelligence. So, is it amazing? Yes. Would I recommend it? Obviously. It was my favorite book of last year. It has like this beautiful, like, poetic writing style that still gives you like tangible things that kind of ground you in reality. For example, one of my favorite passages from the entire novel comes from the beginning, when our main protagonist Waverly compares her best friends to a combination of Machiavelli and Heathers, which I think imperfectly encapsulates this book. And teenagers, for that matter. It's the being drenched in pop culture but still being philosophical at the same time. I think I know for a fact that people are gonna come for the romance in some form or fashion for this book, but I just want to say this. If somebody walked into my dreams and we were having beautiful conversations about life, I think I know myself and I would fall hard. If I dream about a Starbucks last night, I'm gonna romanticize it until I get one. You know what I mean? I already have a book review of Places No One Knows if you want more in-depth thoughts on it. It was one of my favorite books of last year, so obviously Maggie Stiefvater did a great job. It makes sense why Maggie Stiefvater likes this. It has that like writing style that Maggie is very well known for, but instead of like magic, throw in a little bit of like psychology, and there you go. It's an amazing book that I hear no one talking about, and it just makes me sad. So please pick it up. I don't know what else to say. So the next book that I read for Maggie Stiefvater was actually Warm Bodies. And Warm Bodies is a zombie novel that kind of tries to explore the difference between staying alive and living. So, picture this. The earth is depleting. Disease is spreading. It's not that far of a jump as of right now. The only difference is zombies are alive and spreading disease, and are terrorizing the human population. So, there's this zombie named R, and he is not like other zombies because he feels empathy for the humans, which kind of all comes to a head when he saves a girl from being eaten, but not her military boyfriend, which is convenient because it happens to be a romance. Aww. Romance between a zombie and a normal human girl. Didn't think I would like it. Turns out zombies can have romances too. And like I just want to say this, like during the 2012 era of BookTube, this book was everywhere. And I'm gonna let you in on something that nobody ever told me about this book, and that is the fact that our main zombie protagonist is married to another zombie. That's right. Which is fine. I just want you to know that this book is going to be talking about more than the romance. We're talking about zombie ethics, we're talking about zombie marriage, and we're talking about zombies trying to figure out what it's like to be alive again. The one thing I will say that this book has going for it is it feels like an entire dystopian 2012 trilogy all compact into one book. I mean, like, in fact, I think that should be a selling point for the marketing team at some point. Similar to like a infomercial that you would see during midnight. Are you tired of any middle book in a dystopian trilogy lagging? Are you tired of unnecessary love triangles that don't add anything to the plot? Are you tired of waiting till book 3 to storm the Capitol? What a metaphor nowadays, huh? If you want to relive your 2012 dystopian days but don't actually want to reread anything, look no further. Warm Bodies has got you covered. But if that is something you're interested in, if you miss the 2012 dystopian days and need a little zombie angst in your life, of course. Warm Bodies is actually like pretty good and like ages pretty well. And I gave it 4 stars, so again, another solid choice from Maggie Stiefvater. As you can tell, I'm very excited about these books. So moving on. The next book that I read was Flowers for Algernon. And Flowers for Algernon is this science fiction novel that was written in the 1960s in this almost vignette style of writing. It's a book, a story, which basically means it's just a story written in progress reports. And these progress reports are written by our main protagonist, Charlie, as he has gone under developmental surgery to improve his intelligence. This surgery has already been performed on a rat, obviously, named Algernon. And because the rat was successful, obviously it's gonna work out on a human. Science! And what you come to find out in the novel is that even though intelligence is all Charlie ever wanted in life, he comes to the realization that maybe ignorance really was bliss. Which, it basically sums this book up. You're kind of tracking someone on their progress to becoming a genius and noticing what that does to their emotional intelligence, because those two things are just very different. And therein lies the catch-22 of like all Charlie ever wanted was to become smarter so that he could be better at relationships. But as he's becoming smarter, he alienates the relationships around him. Like during the time that this book was written, lobotomies were actually really popular, and it was believed that if you took out a part of the brain, you would become extremely intelligent. And what would happen is that when that surgery was taking place, is sometimes it would go wrong, leaving the patients in worse situations than when they started with. And I would also say, like, because it was written in the 1960s, some of the language that it uses would not be considered politically correct today. But if you're a psychology major and want to know the difference between emotional and intellectual intelligence, I would say go for it. It's a very fascinating read to like track someone's intelligence and see how that affects their personal life. But this ended up being my least favorite on the list, and like that means nothing because I still loved it. As far as I as a reader goes, it was fascinating and interesting, just not typically what I look for in a novel. But let's go and move on to one that I do look for in a novel. I'm Thinking of Ending Things. So I'm Thinking of Ending Things follows this girl on a car ride to her boyfriend's parents' house as she's contemplating breaking up with her boyfriend. Hence the title, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And as discussed before, it does the thing that I love, because on the way up to their parents' house, they're just talking about what it means to be alive, what it means to be human, what it means to be isolated. Basically, just what it means that we circumnavigate the world alone. I'm okay, guys, it's fine. And what I think this book does incredibly well is it makes you scared about things that you shouldn't normally be scared about. Like if you've ever taken a night class at night, and you walk to your car and it's pitch dark, and your logical side of your brain is like, it's fine, I've done this 100 times and nothing bad has ever happened to me. But then you think like, but it's dark and there might be a serial killer out there. If you can encapsulate that feeling, this book is that. Because this whole entire time you're like, something is up and I just can't put my finger on it. It feels like a David Lynch film put into a book form. I think it's trying to talk about what it feels like when you have untapped potential and you know you're never gonna be able to use it. There's very much commentary on what it's like to be a woman in society, and like I had no idea that the author was a male, because like the commentary seemed so apropos, because like even the title, like I'm thinking of ending things, it talks about shifting the blame onto yourself when you know your partner has done something that offends you. And like women's desire and need in society to be agreeable and understandable and justify actions, when like that is not the case, obviously. And for such a short book, it feels like there's pretty massive buildup, but you're just never sure what it's building up to. But when you get to that grand reveal, because obviously I don't want to spoil you, it's just insane. Like, I didn't see any of it coming. It was the first book I read in 2020 and it was at 5 stars, and honestly it's probably going to be in the favorites of this year, which means that Maggie Stiefvater has gone 2 for 2. 2 favorites in a secret TBR? Is that unheard of? I think it might be. The best way I can describe this book is it feels like it embodies uncanny valley. Like there's just something a little unsettling about it. There's something that's too realistic about it. It's basically Jim Carrey's A Christmas Carol. It's just a little too realistic for the animation. It looks too human, and I don't know why I'm unsettled, but I am unsettled. So, moving on. Next! So the last and final thing that I read for this experiment was the manga, The Girl from the Other Side. So the girl from the other side essentially follows this monster and this little girl. And this little girl views this monster as her teacher, because he's very sweet and tender, and he takes care of this child. And there's this curse that is plaguing the monster, and the little girl can't touch her teacher because if she does, she will turn into a monster. So towards the end of this, why did I want to say novel? Manga, this little girl gets chased by soldiers, and just because of the possibility that she might be infected by this curse, they want to kill her. So there's obviously this paranoia that sets in, and there's this discussion of what it means to be a monster, because I would argue killing a young girl means you're a monster. I'm gonna say it. Versus the world sees her teacher as a monster, but is the world not looking at themselves because they are in fact the monster? Dun dun dun! Society is evil. But what this manga does is it's able to just beautifully tiptoe between the sweet and innocent and the scary mystery that's going on. And I would say the art style, it does that perfectly. It's very simplistic, and it's black and white, and it feels very purposeful for the novel. And it's one of the only art styles that it seems and it feels like the art is adding another element to the story. You know, like the monster versus the girl, light versus dark, the curse and the non-curse. There's a lot of like duality moments to this manga, so it makes sense that there's only 2 colors in it. Now these 2 characters, our monster that's taking care of our child, kind of are able to meet in this like weird gray area which feels very symbolic, not gonna lie to you. And like all of these books, I think it also has a conversation of what it means to be a monster, what it means to be human, and as we've discussed, I love that so much. If you're interested in manga at all, I'm not lying when I tell you this is my favorite manga, which is like 3 out of 5 are favorites, which is like super impressive for recommendations and all that stuff. But this was really fun for me. Great experiment. Obviously it had great results. Yeah, my advice is stalk your favorite author on Goodreads, see what they love, and you got some great recommendations. So on that note, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Keep reading and all that jazz. What word am I trying to conjure out of my mind? Excuse me. Did you see my like dab burp? No offense to Maggie Seaholder, I think this might top the Raven Boys. Cool, got it. Thumbnail check.